One. Go. Hello, investors. Hello, hunters. We welcome everybody today to another amazing AMA. Yeah, crypto hunters elite. You know how it is done. We bring you projects which we have, gone through thoroughly, and we believe they have something important to offer the space. We bring it down to you people's face so you can have an early bite of the cake. I say. Yes, today we have with us Liberty Finance and the guest speaker is going to be Zen. Liberty Finance is a project that takes pride in offering revolutionary decentralized trading. You know, it's a platform that is designed to that is designed to serve users of all skills level. And I believe for everyone who is into crypto, who wants to like make a couple bucks, you want to know how to trade better, how to make money easily. This is something for you, and it's something you want to like definitely look out for. There's less I can say on the project because obviously I'm not a member of the team, and I'm just like going to be, let me say, interviewing a member of the team today. And today we have Zen, and he's going to be answering most of my questions, telling us basically everything about Liberty Finance. Don't forget, guys, once we hit the 30 minutes mark, I'll open the group chat and you can drop your questions in. I'll pick a few, Zen can pick a few too, and we're gonna ask those questions in the voice chat so you guys can get an answer to your question. If by chance we're unable to answer your questions, I popped in the link to their socials, Telegram, Discord, so you can join in, drop your questions in there. I'm sure there are community moderators there who are going to be excited to answer your questions. Yes, let's get back to it now. Zen, can you give us a quick introduction? I feel the guys would love to know. I know you've been here one time, but I'm sure some new guys are in and they would love to know who is behind the project, how you guys got in and what the project entails itself. So can you give us a quick introduction about yourself, the team, and your background in the space?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to do that. So my name is Zen. I'm based out of South Africa, although our project was born in the UAE, in Dubai, and our team is really global. We've got team members from Canada, from the States, from Turkey, within Dubai itself, and yeah, we really are a global team, all passionate about the space and all passionate about crypto. I was um, I would say lucky in the sense that I got into crypto by accident um, way back in the beginning of the year 2017. And, when I got into it by accident, I ended up, doing really well and kind of had this sort of sense and feel that I was a genius. Everything I bought just went up. Everything I invested in just grew and grew, and I was convinced that I was very clever, and um, I felt very proud of myself. And something interesting happened. At the end of 2017, um, I read an article about Ripple, and I took pretty much most of my gains from BTC, and I bought Ripple, and that just exploded. So not only then did I feel like a genius, I felt like had this capability of guessing the markets. And then something very funny happened is that from that point onwards, everything I bought and everything I invested in just went down 5%. And I couldn't understand it, and I was frustrated. And really, then throughout the year 2018, right up to 2020, I immersed myself deep in the trading space. I wanted to understand how trading works. I wanted to understand assets, money flow, both at a micro level and at a macro level. And really, at the back of that, I gained a lot of experience in what it means to trade and what it means to trade assets of all classes, not just crypto. So been very passionate about trading, and it was through the last cycle that I started to explore a lot more of the technology behind trading, and the technology that drives it, and got really involved in building quantitative tools. We set up a futures-based algorithmic fund, and at that specific point, we also started to build networks and communities, and really it was last year that we started to really come together and look at DeFi and look at Web3 space, and really what was missing. And the biggest thing that we saw that was missing, and this was really on the back of what happened at FTX, was that users were giving up their custody for the sake of convenience. And really what that means is, just because a centralized exchange is fast and it allows you to do stop orders or allows you to place limits, users were prepared to give up their crypto just to have that functionality. And that didn't really sit well with us. And we set about, looking at how do we build a DEX that isn't just about sell your own custody or your keys, your crypto, but also it had the same features that us as traders would want to use from a day-to-day basis. And as we started to explore this sort of option of building out Liberty Finance, we also realized that there was a large segment of the population and of the world that are largely excluded from DeFi. And this really was where the focus on Islamic finance sort of came into being. And it was quite interesting. The more we looked at it, the more we sort of realized that this was a niche and this was a specific mode that needed to be focused on, not just to create a platform that's only designed for Islamic investors, but a platform that's inclusive, that allows anybody to trade and anybody to utilize it, no matter what their background, no matter what country they live in, no matter sort of where they're from. We wanted to make this sort of service available. And one of the biggest sort of parts of DeFi is lending, farming and staking. But lending is a really big piece of DeFi, both in the way that you're able to earn yield by providing liquidity for loans, and also the way that you can use your collateral to get liquidity. And DeFi lending is phenomenal in the sense of, you don't need a bank. You don't need to jump through, hundreds and thousands of hoops if you need liquidity. And it's very attractive. And I believe in this next cycle, we're going to see DeFi really explode, just because of where people's thoughts and trust are in the financial system, especially with what happened recently with the banks that had major issues. We're going to see a lot more of this. And we're seeing a big push and a big move of money and of capital out of banks and into things like private credit funds and private property funds and private investment funds. And people are really wanting to take finance into their own hands, both in the traditional world and on crypto. So the biggest challenge when we looked at, okay, we want to create this inclusive platform, which means that we need to make it usable by all traders, whether you are Muslim or not. DeFi was not accessible because DeFi lending specifically charges something called interest, and interest is forbidden in terms of the requirements of Islamic finance. And being the people that we are, we looked at it. We looked at the problem holistically, and we kind of said, okay, well, how do we create a lending solution that doesn't charge interest? And there's a phenomenal sort of financial instrument used in Islamic finance called deferred commodity trade, where instead of charging interest, you charge a markup on a commodity that you buy and sell on behalf of the person who needs finance. And in doing so, you create a methodology where you can loan money out and receive more back for what you've loaned in the form of sort of profit. And when we looked at this, we got us really excited because it meant that commodities really are another piece of the crypto world that's also picking up, which is your real world assets. And for us, that became quite exciting because, like, okay, well, we can look at real world assets. We can look at even some NFTs as potential commodities that can be used for this engine. The only challenge was liquidity. For this process to work, you needed large order books. You needed things to settle very, very quickly in terms of a buy and a sell. And you just don't have that at the moment in the crypto space, specifically with RWAs and NFTs. So we then developed a commodity model that uses real world commodities. And we've unlocked a massive amount of commodity liquidity to support this. And when we created this, we actually then realized that this is not just a tool that can be used for DeFi, it's a tool that can be used for traditional finances as well. Because currently, when you look at what's happening in traditional Islamic finance, if you go into an Islamic bank and you want to take out a loan, and they want to do the deferred commodity model, to access that loan or to access that finance can take anywhere from 24 to 72 hours, which is crazy, when you think about how seamless and how scalable Western banking systems are. So what we ended up creating is a solution that allows any bank to perform the same transaction that would typically take them, almost 3 days to conclude, maybe 12 seconds, or the time that it takes to mine, 3 blocks on chain, which is a huge difference. So this has really opened up a whole new avenue for Liberty Finance, and really where it sort of left us is the sort of space we're looking at. So kind of sort of leads us to like, why now, and why do we really want to sort of focus on this? And I think really it is one, by making this an inclusive platform, we're looking at a Islamic finance industry which has been largely excluded, which will reach about 5.5 trillion by next year. And if we had to just mirror proportions, of traditional finance world with crypto, we're looking at a potential market of around 320 billion just for our exchange, which would then give us a 9.6 billion TVL in terms of our DEX, in terms of what we have access to. As well as then with the TradeFi solution, we then create this really efficient solution for traditional finance, where we're projecting, massive revenues coming through on this. So I think maybe it gives you a bit of background and kind of why we've landed at where we're at now. But yeah, keen to hear any questions you have until this point.
All right. Great. I think I missed the first AMA because now I'm checking it. I just went back, screw up a little bit. I think it was around December, 8th, early December, and I wasn't around then. I had like something to attend to for like 3 weeks or so. So I remember I missed the first AMA, which is why this sounds all new to me. Because I heard you saying you've been here before, and in my head it's like, nah, I've not heard of this. But now, yeah, it feels like I have my answer now because I think during the time you were here, I was not around. Anyway, I was going to point out a couple of things because I was going through the website. I noticed this has to do with the Islamic religion, and I think you already covered most part of it because I was going to. I have Muslim friends, and they do mention to me about how lending and getting interest on lending is like aram or something. Yeah, I think it's aram
Correct.
in the religion. Yeah. So I was going to just point out that how does the team plan on averting that from the lending platform. But I think you've covered that. Another thing I would love to point out before we carry on is I think you're one of the lucky people who actually enjoyed crypto the first time they got in. Because you mentioned when you got in, you were buying things and it was like popping. It was not like that for most of us. Most of us we had to like lose money and then be like, nah, we can't just lose money and then disappear. We have to get back in and find a way to make money, which is why I really love what you guys are doing, especially the trading platform. Because for people like myself, I'm not really big on trading. I buy most of the top. I buy coins I feel have the potential. Um, always right, like let me say 70% of the time. I buy coins with potentials and I just hold them for a while, maybe 3, 4 months, 6 months, a year and stuff. And it turns out very well for me. But now for people who are actually active traders, let's talk about your trading platform itself. What does that have? What are the utilities the trading platform has that helps people who trade better?
Yeah, sure. So I think for us, the one sort of key piece to our solution, and what's really exciting is when we launch testnet. So you've really got to sort of follow our socials, get in our channel, and be sort of prepped for that. And I'll talk a bit more about our testnet. But I think the key thing is DeFi is difficult if you are a layman, um, and I mean, I remember once trying to explain to my good friend Mark, he was like, I'm interested in Bitcoin, I'm interested in crypto, but I'm more interested in DeFi, and I want to trade, coins that aren't available on exchanges. And I was like, okay, well, basically what you need to do is get a MetaMask, or any sort of trusted and effective web wallet. And he had this like look of complete blank on his face. And when I tried to explain to him, I said, well, it's a browser extension. And then that blank look got even bigger. And I said, okay, but okay, it's a thing in your browser that you click, but you need to create a private key and a seed phrase. And I could see just the fear of him thinking, I've got to take my hard-earned money and I've got to put trust in a technology that I don't quite understand, and I don't know how it's going to work. And if you've haven't lost money in DeFi because of a silly mistake that you've made, then you haven't really experienced it. So, including myself, sending transactions to the wrong address, or signing things or confirming things, or seeing that it's going to cost too much gas and then trying to cancel it, only to realize that the cancel transaction, it costs just as much gas as the gas you already paid. And these are all the challenges people face. So for us, one of the key things is that we need to create a DeFi platform that has an easy on ramp, but also is very familiar. So if you've used any traditional trading tools, it needs to be familiar. So that's one of the sort of key pieces to our platform. So things like being able to track your positions. Are you profitable or not? What were your last trades looking like? Have they gone up? Have they gone down? What are other people trading currently? What pairs can you look at? Where's the value for you as a trader to sort of get involved? The second side of it is, around being a decentralized marketplace. Being able to see, okay, if I've got money to invest, or if I've got crypto to invest, where can I invest it? Which pools should I actually put it into? What's going to generate me the best returns? As well as, if I'm an Islamic investor, what is Sharia compliant? What am I allowed to invest in? Or I can invest in anything, but then I can see how much of my revenue or income I've made is non-permissible, that maybe I can then take and donate to a charity. So that's really from the DeFi side. And then I think the third piece, which is really, really important to us, is the education hub. I think a lot of mistakes get made and a lot of money gets lost and a lot of people get burnt in crypto through lack of education. Everyone sort of watches these TikTok videos and they watch these YouTubes about how easy it is to make, so much money just buying this project or that project, or they just follow people blindly on Twitter. We really want people to be educated. And so for us, a big focus of our protocol and our solution is an education platform. It's teaching you how to trade. It's teaching you how to be secure. It's teaching you how to manage risk. And we ran a few master classes last year. We're probably going to run a few this year as well. But a lot of that stuff is all going to be on our educational hub. So I think, maybe to answer your question, Dom, what are we offering in terms of a trading platform? It's really these three things that we are putting forward to users out there.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, every part of the, what should I call it now? Every part of the use cases that comes with the trading platform itself is beautiful. I think it's something that shows the people behind this project actually do care about the investors of the crypto space, the community that's pushing the project forward. I think the one that excites me the most is the crypto education, because I can't keep saying this. We don't get enough of that. A lot of people are just getting into crypto. Um, people are just getting into crypto not knowing what they are actually getting into. Because I have friends who are trying to like get into crypto. They ask me, "Hey Tom, you're doing this. It looks like it's look like it's making you quite a good money," and they just think crypto is like a just like a piece here. They don't know it is. They don't know it is broad. Basically, they don't know there's a lot of things you could do in crypto. There's a lot of ways to like you know gain more and make money and projects you can invest to. Trust me, most people don't think we have up to like 1,000 tokens in the crypto space. Because I have people who get shocked when I tell them we have when I tell them the amount of tokens that are in the space and how little information the general masses know. Anyway, thank you so much. I think that is really lovely. I think it's something that will help people trade better, definitely. Before I move on to my next question, I told you I was going to let you know if Oski joins in. Oski is in now, and I think he wants to say hi, and maybe he has a question.
Hey guys. Hey Sam, good point about the story about people see only the success stories, and it's good to give indication because it is mostly a lot of people don't make profits in crypto. So that's a very good point, and I'm very curious to the masterclass you will give, and it's a good education for the community. Very nice. You told something about the testnet, Sam. Can you tell
Yes.
us a little bit more about that? Is it like we see in other testnets also? Will the people enjoy the testnet get also an airdrop or something like that, or is there another way?
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of when we look at our testnet, we're going to launch our testnet along with what we're terming our Mawiba incentive program, where we're going to airdrop about $1 million worth of LibFi. And really what we want is, to create a space for people to not only just broadly test the system, but intrinsically test it. And we'll reward for number of transactions that you do. We'll reward for bugs that are reported. We'll reward for, exploits that are found in the smart contracts. So there's a host of things we're going to do to really incentivize testnet participation. And really, we want to build a testnet community that's not just going to, be there for the airdrop, but are going to help shape the solution for themselves. They're going to be using this, and they're going to be saying, well, this feature would really work well, or we'd like to see this, or this doesn't work great, can you improve it? And that's really what I believe a testnet should be about. And we will then be obviously giving out, the rewards, for people participating in that. So yeah, I think definitely. And testnet's launching on Arbitrum. So it's a super fast chain. There's going to be a whole bunch of comms coming out in the next day or two on the launch date, on what you need to do to get ready, where you need to sign up. There's going to be some really cool question and task on campaigns, which are going to tie your wallets to your transactions and issue rewards and points to sort of get you to getting these airdrops once we launch on mainnet.
Very cool, nice, and good. You use the testnet word for be should be, because a lot of people do it only for the airdrops, but it is not only for the airdrops. It's also to find bugs and to make it better for the community. Very cool, nice.
Fantastic. I think one of the other things that we didn't touch on too much last time, and I really want to maybe just sort of speak to it, is one, the LibFi DAO, and really for us, LibFi is being set up and managed as a DAO. So your LibFi token really gives you control over the protocol and gives you a say in what the protocol does. But I think more importantly, something that we've really been working on quite a lot in terms of how do we extend the utility of the token beyond crypto. I think for me, a lot of projects, and you've probably seen this as well, a lot of projects are only as valuable as the community or as the hype that project specifically has. And that's what we saw, in this last bear market. Almost every single crypto project had a drawdown of like 99%. And it really was because the moment the liquidity left the crypto space, the moment the market cap started to drop, the overall total market cap, we just saw all these projects basically losing value at a very, very rapid rate. And for us, really what the focus is we want to take our LibFi token and enable our LibFi token holders to stake these into what we've terming the Amana vaults. And the idea with the vaults is that it's not just a staking mechanism to earn more LibFi, but it's actually a staking mechanism where you will be paid in real yield. So the idea is all the work that we're doing in terms of the DEX and the DeFi offering, as well as all the TradeFi services that we're going to start running with traditional finances using traditional markets, are going to generate revenue, and that revenue is actually poured back into the vaults. So you're almost going to have a stake in the business, if you want to call it that, and you'll be earning real yield that will get paid to you on a weekly basis. So not only will your tokens appreciate in value, but actually owning those tokens are going to become more and more valuable as we start to generate more and more revenue. And if we look at our sort of projections, we're kind of looking in the first 24 months of making around $6 million in revenue. And if you think about a token launch, what our FDV is going to be, which will only be 3 million when we launch, it's actually very, very attractive to actually own the token itself. And as we start to grow, year on year, we'll be sort of in the regions of like $30 to $40 million in terms of revenue coming in, and that revenue gets split and shared with the monovolt stakers. So it's almost like buying stock where you receive a dividend from the company as they generate sales. Within LibFi, you will then receive a portion of the fees that they generate, through the work that we do on DeFi or through the work that we do on the TradeFi side.
Okay,
Cool.
okay, Oski back. All right, go. Yeah, Oski, do you still have questions, or I can take it on now?
You can take it on, Tom.
All right, cool, cool. Yeah, amazing questions, by the way. So yeah, I think you were talking about. I don't know if you were talking about the Amana vaults now, because I just mentioned the vault several times. I was reading through it a little bit back. It looks interesting, but now you spoke about the community and how much power they have on a project, and if the project goes down and the community pulls out, basically basically the community can decide if the project is going to bounce back up, or if they're going to like run out and get the project to go down basically. Speaking of the community, I just wanted to know how much power they have, you know deciding what the project does next, deciding what kind of partnerships you put on. Is there like a voting process where that involves the community, that allows them, to help decide with the team on, what steps to carry and stuff?
Yeah, most definitely. So in terms of our DAO formation, and a DAO is officially being formed. It's a registered entity, which is a very important piece for us. From lessons learned from past projects, where there have been challenges with not having a legal DAO entity sort of formulated. But I think first and foremost, our DAO is governed by what we know terming the Sharia board. That is really just to ensure that everything that we do still aligns with the Islamic financial principles of what we're aiming to achieve. It's not about making it just exclusive, but it's ensuring that we don't do things that would jeopardize all investors, and all users of our solution. And for us, really, it is then looking at proposals and ways of ensuring things like inclusive decision making, weighted voting, which for me is quite a key thing. One of the biggest challenges you see in a lot of DAOs, a lot of protocols, is your voting is based on holdings, which means that they're very susceptible to flash loans, meaning that a person can take a flash loan, buy the token, vote on a proposal, and then pay back the flash loan, and affect a change in the DAO. Like, for example, change a percentage or change a weighting metric or something, and ultimately then drain the actual protocol. We've seen this happen in a lot of exploits over the years. So for us, we kind of look at ways that we protect the community and protect the DAO by putting these sort of processes into place. But ultimately, it is governed by that. And I think, to your point, in terms of the project is only as valuable as the community, that is first and foremost. But I think as a project, we need to make sure that we're generating real revenue, that we are a real business that's out there, creating not just transactions and revenue in crypto space, but also in the traditional finance space, so that no matter what happens in the crypto market, our technology will still be utilized on a day-by-day basis. I mean, if you look at just one bank as an example in Africa, they're doing around 200 to 250 million dollars of lending transactions in a week, and that doesn't stop. That financial wheel just keeps on turning, and we're really slotting ourselves right into that space where we're making ourselves an attractive solution to these banks and to these financial institutions to use our technology over the traditional commodity technology that they're currently using, which is in fact very archaic. They literally pick up the phone or send an email to order the commodity that they need to process the loan, whereas we're doing everything on chain, on a private Arbitrum Orbit chain. It's settled in seconds as opposed to days, and it really then just creates this ability for these banks to do things very quickly, and become a very attractive solution. So I think maybe it's twofold in terms of my answer. One is really around the DAO is super important because that's what's going to drive us forward into the future. But also our key focus is how do we create real revenue, and we create a protocol that's not just here successful when the market is bullish, and then when the market is bearish, everything goes quiet, and then we all have to wait for the next cycle. So we want to make sure that there's that staying power, that as it continues onwards, everyone that's involved in the project just continues to benefit from the work that we're doing.
Interesting, interesting. Thank you so much for that. I think another thing that really, intrigues me about the governance funding and the DAO itself is how do the DAO is consistent. You called it a Sharia. What did you call it? Sorry, a
Yeah,
Sharia
Sharia
board.
board.
Yeah, okay, fine. So you called it a Sharia board. Now, the Sharia board consists of just community members or community members and somebody from the team.
Yeah, so the Sharia board is made up of Islamic scholars that are well versed in the requirements of Islamic finance, and as well as community members that are Muslim. The idea is that the Sharia board oversees the DAO proposals, meaning that the overall community will still vote on proposals, but proposals themselves will be vetted before they're allowed to be passed. So, for example, if someone puts forward a proposal that we should open up a gambling section of the Liberty Finance platform, the Sharia board will say, well, that's not prohibited, and it doesn't align with sort of ethical Islamic principles. Therefore, that
Mhm.
proposal won't get passed. So that's really where the Sharia board comes in. It's to ensure that everybody that's involved in the platform, that whether you're Muslim or not, or Islamic or not, that that if you are involved in the platform, if you are trading on the solution, if you are generating revenue for yourself, that revenue is going to be compliant. It's not going to have any issue, based on your religion or your faith.
Mm. All right, cool, cool. And for the community members who gets to join, the community members who gets to join the board, I know one of the requirements is you have to be a Muslim, right? Now, what are the other requirements? Do they have to like hold a certain amount of tokens, or there are things they have to do, to be able to join the Sharia board?
So I think the Sharia board is voted by the Sharia board. So within sort of traditional finance, a lot of traditional finance houses also offer Islamic finance, and they create something that's called an Islamic finance window. So within that, there's an elected board, and that elected board is made up of well-known scholars and board members that understand the space, that understand the rules and the requirements of Islamic finance. So really, from a community member perspective, every community member will be able to be involved in the decision making of the protocol itself. So they will be able to vote, they will be able to put forward proposals. The only thing that the board would do is just vet and ensure that those proposals align with Islamic principles, that they're not going to put the whole solution into jeopardy by passing that proposal. So I think it's not going to be exclusive. Everybody that's involved, the entire community will be involved in the DAO, and the entire community has the ability to stake in the vaults and earn revenue from the solution. And yes, when it comes to the Sharia board itself, if we wanted to vote in new Sharia board members, the DAO would actually vote on that as well. So their credentials will be shared, their pedigrees, their memberships, their experience, and the community will be able to then vote and elect, who the board members would be year on year.
Interesting, interesting. Thank you. Okay, another thing I would love to point out is one of the utilities that makes trading, let me say, easier and less costly for people who use um your platform is the fact that Liberty Finance has reduced fees, right? They are like little amounts that are taken off transactions and stuff. The gas, the tax, the charges, they are little. How did it seem come to work that, and why did you decide to make it something that does not cost too much even for an average man to use?
Well, I mean, I think ultimately our goal is to ensure that we are cheaper than centralized exchanges. So the biggest challenge with DeFi is the fees. If you still transact on Ethereum, which a lot of us do, you would notice that just to send somebody funds or to move funds from one wallet to another or to another chain can cost sometimes $50. It's crazy. And if you're thinking about that, you want to trade. I mean, imagine now you're getting into the markets and you've got $100 that you want to trade with and you want to invest with. Before you even get started, you've basically spent 70% of it on fees. So we need to figure out a way to reduce those. The chain that we've elected, which is Arbitrum, is very cheap. We've built our own relayer, which allows us to cover gas costs for our users to a point. So when it comes to a lot of the transactions that you're going to be doing on the platform, you're not going to be paying gas for those transactions, yet you're still going to have the custody of the tokens themselves. And that's sort of our focus on that. So we really want to make fees like a non-event for people. That mustn't be a worry or a consideration, for individuals getting involved.
All right, cool. Thank you. Interesting. One thing I would love to ask again is about the Murabaa protocol, right? So what does this actually do for the blockchain itself, and what benefits does it grant the users and the project itself?
So the Murabaa protocol really is a commodity. Murabaa it's an age-old Islamic financial instrument that was created to facilitate finance or creating finance deals. And what it involves buying and selling a commodity. So you buy a commodity, you sell it with a markup or with a profit, but the person who gets that commodity doesn't necessarily need it, so they then sell it onto the open market, and then they get the finance that they need for whatever they needed the finance for. What this does for the blockchain and what it does for Liberty Finance and for the community is we're now taking this traditional model that's done very traditionally. And like I said, it's done with phone calls and emails and sometimes direct meetings that people have to have to create these deals. It's all being done on chain and it's all being automated. And because we're using the blockchain, it's transparent. So no one can, it's immutable. No one can change anything. No one, like once it's on the chain, once it's in the ledger, it's there. It's almost burnt into the history books forever. Nothing can be actually changed. And that gives it the transparency that it needs. And then what that does is it enables this technology to run at thousands of times faster than the traditional space. So it becomes a very attractive offering for people to utilize. But also then it allows us to bring in some really cool things like Trade Boost, where individuals want to invest in certain projects. They come onto our platform, they want to trade Ethereum, they think it's going to go a lot higher. They want to almost be able to access a type of margin facility. This would enable that. And because it's not charging interest, it's compliant. It's not haram, because it's using this deferred commodity model behind the scenes. So it's really exciting. So I think what it does for the chain is it opens up accessibility to DeFi and to the space to a lot more users. And it also has for us, traditional DeFi users that have maybe been using or even traditional centralized exchange users that have been using exchange margin and exchange leverage, another way to access leverage that we know is fixed and we know that is clear and transparent. Like we know that there's no underlying or hidden fees or hidden sort of interest that we're suddenly going to pay. Everything is clear and everything is above board. I think that for me is one of the biggest things that resonates with Islamic finance is the transparency of it. Is that in the, let's call it the Western world, if you go to a car salesman and you buy a car from them, most of the time you don't know what their intentions are. Like they will even say to you, "Oh no, it only had one owner. She was an old granny. She drove it to the shop to buy milk once a month." Meanwhile, it was owned by teenagers, and you never know what that car has gone through, what that vehicle's gone through. When it comes to Islamic finance and Islamic finance practices, both parties need to understand fully what either party aims to gain from the transaction. And that for me is phenomenal, which means that even a project that gets listed on Liberty Finance, both the person who wants to invest in that project or trade that project and the person who's presenting that project would have to be clear and transparent about everything, about the source of funds, what they're doing, what they hope to gain, what they personally will gain. And all of this makes it sort of more clear and more direct. And in fact, there's a really good book, if anyone here wants to go out and read something, called Skin in the Game by Nassim Taleb. And he speaks about Islamic finance and the way these deals sort of work, where everyone is aware of what the other party hopes to gain. And once again, that's really where we bring this in. So the Murabaha sort of protocol itself is exactly that. It's a protocol that it's clear, everyone can see exactly what commodities were being traded, what they were traded for to generate the loan, and what the actual profit was. The person who was giving the loan, how much money are they making from that transaction? How much money am I having to pay? And I know all of this up front without being shocked by, oh no, there's been a change in the algorithm, or the interest rate has gone up, or whatever it is, and now suddenly where I thought I could afford to get this loan, like on Aave as an example, now I'm actually facing potential liquidation. So these are the sort of things that we would definitely change when it comes to lending in the space.
All right, nice. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Okay, I think I just have a question left, and then we'll pass the mic back to us. I think he has a couple community questions he would love to take, and if he has a question himself, you might ask. Okay, yeah. Back to my question. I was wondering, what partnerships are we looking at? From Liberty Finance. What kind of collaborations are we to expect from you guys? Is this going to be, is it going to be based on projects who actually abide by like the Islamic protocols also, or you might get partnerships into projects which like really follow this set of rules the um the project developers are following.
So I think it's twofold. I think one, we will only support projects that are intrinsically real. So unfortunately for everyone who likes meme coins, you won't be able to trade meme coins initially on LibFi's trading platform. However, we also believe in it being inclusive and allowing people the opportunity to choose what they want to do. So we will present projects that maybe haven't been vetted or potentially might not be compliant. And as an investor, you would then have the opportunity to decide whether or not you want to trade that project. And it will be very clear that any revenue you generate or profit you generate from those trades, in terms of Islamic finance, would be deemed as non-permissible. And you could decide what you do with that. So it is about giving users the freedom of choice to make their decisions on what they want to do, and educating them and showing them what the platform is about. But at the same time, we really want to focus on bringing projects into the ecosystem that have been vetted by our Sharia board. And by vetted, I mean the board goes and sees where are their funds coming from, what technology are they building. In essence, it's doing a deep dive into every project that's there. And that for us is really, really exciting. And I think a lot of projects are permissible. A lot of projects are fine, that exist out there and that are being created. I think where projects are not fine are projects that operate in almost like a sense of like a Ponzi, where it's really only a small percentage of people that hope to gain from it, or projects that prey on people's emotions, gambling projects, or those sort of things. I think I would be happy not to have those things on our platform, because really I think anything that sort of supports that supports people losing and people sort of coming out the other side, all for the worse, we don't really want to support anyways. And I think that's really what Islamic finance is about. It's about ensuring that what's in there is transparent, it's ethical, and I think it's great, because it really is. These are the projects that stand the test of time. These are the projects that go on to grow and become successful. It's projects that have real value systems behind them and have a real focus. It's not projects that are saying, oh, we're in a bull market, we're just going to release some sort of meme token, and once we make as much money as we can, we then just going to rug everybody. And I think whilst we would never be able to prevent that fully, we would hope that all the research that we do into the projects that come onto the platform would allow people to make these informed decisions about what to trade and what not to trade.
All right. Thank you so much. Sounds interesting. Like I said earlier, I really love what the team is doing. Is the fact that it is pushing towards a project that has principles backing it up. I think it's something that is really beautiful. Okay, yeah. Back to Usk now. Usk, do you have a question, or are there community questions that you would love to ask?
Yeah, we have some community questions. I will jump to these. I will pick up some, and maybe you can answer these. Let me check. Thank you, Meredith, for the question. Um, can you tell us something about following? What are Liberty Finance plans for expansion and further advancements in the Islamic DeFi ecosystem?
Yeah,
Unos
so I think for us, you know, the initial point and starting point
más o menos unos 10 minutos dura
is
ese
almost an
mano
Aave
ahí. No, pero ese
competitor
man se hizo
that's,
un
you know,
Claro, ese
accessible to
mano.
all investors or
No,
all users.
adelantemos el video.
But where does that
Hizo
go to
eso.
from there? Where does that
Ya.
expand?
Duró
You know, there's some really
más de 10
interesting
segundos
Islamic
ahí. Más de 10 minutos
financial
ahí el
products
man
that
vea.
exist out there.
Si
There's
el
things like
güey.
the Sukuk, there's
Si
things
vio o
like
no, papi. Eso
Mudaraba,
existe.
which is a profit sharing agreement that you can enter into. And in fact, we're currently building a protocol now for microfinancing that makes use of the Mudaraba, which is the profit sharing loan, which is basically where a financier and a borrower come together, and the borrower has a business plan or an idea, and the financier invests in that idea, and then they share in the profits equally. And that is quite a big thing for sort of one of the biggest drivers that we're seeing, you know, in Africa, which is a big drive for small to medium enterprises, you know, entrepreneurship, and considering the large sort of Islamic population, not just in Africa but in Asia, where there's a big drive for economic growth, there's a big drive for entrepreneurship. This slots in really nicely into that. So I definitely foresee us expanding a lot more into those spaces, you know, and really facilitating the ability for a lot more people to have access to finance and to have access to the ability to scale what they're trying to create, you know, through our solution.
Okay, great. Thank you. Then we have a question from Angelic Abe. What benefits do celebrity finance offer to both traditional Islamic finance practitioners
Practitioners,
and newcomers
yeah.
to the yes, sorry, and newcomers to the DeFi space?
There's always that one word, hey Husky, it just gets us.
Yeah,
you know?
that's a little bit difficult. I was put my glasses from my head and I was reading it and I was thinking, what? No, okay, go ahead.
No, awesome. Angelique, also a great question. I really like that one. So I think when we look at the benefits from an Islamic practitioner perspective or an Islamic investor perspective, it's a safe space. It's knowing that I'm coming into a space where, you know, I know that the protocol is Sharia compliant. They're going to be issued a fatwa, so we are going to be issued a fatwa. We will be issued a certificate to say that we are compliant. So I've got that peace of mind to know that my funds are being put into an ethical platform, and I can sort of have that one less burden of worry over and above all the other worries that a trader will typically have, you know, about a project that they want to invest in or trade. So it's definitely a big component to it. But also for newcomers into the space, you know, I think one of the biggest deterrents of newcomers is people come into DeFi, they're all excited, they see a project, it sounds good, there's a lot of people talking about it on Twitter, and they put all the money into that project, and then there's a rug pull, you know, and that's it. That's the end of their DeFi journey. They will very more than likely not come back again after an experience like that. So I believe that what we're creating for newcomers is also a safe entry point into DeFi. You know, it's almost creating that cushioning where the projects that you see, the education platform that we'll have to guide you, all these things will be set up so that you can make the best of the experience and become a better trader and a better investor in crypto. And that just benefits the whole platform and the whole DAO itself, because the more people stay and the more people trade and use the system, the more fees get generated and the more revenue gets shared amongst all DAO stakers.
Great. I will pick now a question with a little bit easier words, so I can ask you better. I have here a question from Carlos. Could you elaborate on the unique lending mechanism that Liberty Finance is introducing to the Islamic DeFi landscape?
Yeah, sure, most definitely. So I think for us, the sort of biggest lending mechanism that we've created is this ability to do a commodity transaction at scale. I think where a lot of other, I wouldn't even say projects or other protocols, there have been protocols that have attempted to do this and are trying to do this. Where they struggle is in the commodity side. And we've created a really unique solution around that. And in fact, we've unlocked probably around $2.7 billion in monthly liquidity, commodity trade that we're able to access, for our solution. And really what that means is we're able to do things at a fraction of the time that traditionally other people take to do. And I think what that does for DeFi is it puts more eyes on DeFi. It puts more focus on, okay, wow, this blockchain technology is not just a fad, or it's not just something that, it's for a certain generation. This is going to be used, by all generations that are making use of Islamic finance, whether it is in a DeFi space or whether it is in a traditional space.
Great. Okay. We have a lot of questions coming in. I will pick up two more, and then maybe if you are available, you can pick also some of the best questions what you think. Okay, I need to answer that. You can answer that also in the chat, or otherwise the community can jump in your socials and can ask the questions there. I have here from Kisha. What inspired Liberty Finance to merge these principles with blockchain technology, and what advantages does this fusion offer to users?
So I think it really was threefold. I think one, being based in South Africa, we've got a large Islamic population or Muslim population here in South Africa. A lot of my closest friends and closest networks are Muslim, and in fact are currently now, in Ramadan. And I've always been fascinated about Islamic finance. And it really was on the back of, reading Nassim Taleb's book, Skin in the Game. And when he speaks about that Islamic finance transaction where both parties have to expose and explain what they gain from the transaction, that just sat really well with me. I just thought, wow, if every transaction could be like that. I mean, imagine if you walked into an employer who wanted to offer you a job, and he said, okay, I'm going to pay you $10,000 a month, but for the work that you're doing, I'm actually going to make $500,000 off of you. Would you take that job, or would you say, well, maybe we need to renegotiate? But a lot of the times this doesn't happen, and I think when it comes to Islamic finance, the idea of it is really that there's transparency in everything that happens. And I think being in crypto for as long as I have, and as long as our team has been in crypto, we've seen it all. And for the most part, it really is, it's not having that deep understanding of what's actually going on that gets a lot of people hurt in the space. And for us, the principles of Islamic finance align so closely with the principles that we want to sort of foster in the space, which is really ethical trading, ethical finance, transparency, and really not, projects that aim to destroy and hurt people, but rather projects that aim to grow people and to benefit people and benefit the overall global community as a whole.
That makes sense. Clear. Then I have the last question for now. That's from Brandy. How does Liberty Finance utilize blockchain protocols to facilitate lending for Islamic financiers, especially mentioning the Tabarak model?
I suppose if I can pick up that question from Brandy.
How does
Liberty
Finance?
Oh, you got it there.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, I got the question there. So yeah, I think Brandy asked a number of really cool questions. I actually like your first question, Brandy, around how we're using Arbitrum Orbit.
Okay, we do that one.
So and I'm happy to also speak to the Tabarak model as well. But I think we've spoken about it a bit, but I think we'll touch on that. So Arbitrum Orbit allows us to create a private chain A private chain is a necessity for traditional finance. So, really where Arbitrum Orbit comes into our ecosystem, it's a way for us to offer blockchain technology to traditional banks, traditional finance houses, without them having to post or put all their personal info and data onto a public ledger. But at the same time, it gives the same security as an actual public ledger, in the sense of the way that transactions are tracked and transactions are not immutable, or rather are immutable, and are sort of baked into the actual chain itself. But the second thing is, because it's Arbitrum Orbit, and we've got a bridge that we've developed, it allows us to bridge between Orbit and Arbitrum One or mainnet, and it allows us to then access the liquidity that we're creating in the traditional finance space for our DeFi mechanisms, for our DeFi loan services, even things like our trade boost or margin trade. So that's how we're sort of combining both of those together. And that's really where the benefit is. And it's one of the primary sort of focuses of why we sort of focused on Arbitrum, to sort of achieve that. And I think that kind of then speaks into your second question, in terms of how we're using blockchain protocols, Brandy, to facilitate the sort of lending for Islamic finances. It's exactly that. What we're saying to your traditional lender or traditional financer that wants to make use of our platform to do the tawarruk and to do the commodity murabaha, is that you can put trust in the solution, because you're going to see throughout the transaction chain what the commodity was that was purchased, where that commodity exists, what is its identifiable information. If you want to take delivery, this is how you can take delivery of that commodity. So it's a real world asset, and it exists. And then you can track it. You can see who it was sold to and who it ultimately was bought by and where it was shipped to. So all of that wouldn't really be possible in a transparent way, in my opinion, without blockchain. Because otherwise it just sits on someone's database or a spreadsheet somewhere, and then we've just got to trust that the person who's telling us this information, it was bought by this person and sold to that person and resold to this market participant. When it's on chain, you can't change that information. That information is there, and that information is never going to go away. And that's really, I believe, one of the biggest value adds, to traditional finance lenders and to traditional financiers, is about having this truly transparent way of tracking the tawarruk through start to end.
Fantastic. If you see one more question you think you need to answer, you can go ahead, Sen. And otherwise, I will give the word to Dom.
Yeah, I think we're good. I mean, it's with you guys, it's always great. I mean, this has been a really, really insightful sort of discussion. I think it's been great.
It's a lot of information, and maybe one more thing to mention for all members who listen now. It is not only for Islam of the Muslim religion. Everyone can use the platform, and also everyone is welcome. You mentioned already, but I will say it also again, and it is very interesting, and I'm looking forward for the testnet.
Exactly that. I think inclusivity is really the key word here. The global Islamic population is huge, and I think that collectively, the more people we can bring to the space, the more people that we can expose to DeFi, the better for all of us that are currently in it, and the better for all of us that want to get involved in it. So I think the benefits just are there. And yeah, I think, like you said, it's inclusive, and that's the key sort of metric here.
Yeah, it is great to see crypto bring everyone together, and that is very beautiful. Dom, for you.
Yeah, I'm with you, bro. Thank you so much. Amazing questions from the community every time, obviously. Thank you guys so much for joining in. Oscar, thank you for the beautiful questions. Zen, thank you for answering those questions. Really, really appreciate. I think we'll just close this up now. But before we go, I just wanted to know: is there anything we didn't touch upon you feel you might want to like brush over? Then we can, call it a day.
I think we covered a lot. I think that if you've got questions, hit us up in our socials, either on Discord or on Telegram. drop us a message. Feel free to DM me. I am that guy. I reply to every single DM. But yeah, I mean, if you've got questions, let us know. And yeah, excited to be working with you all, and excited to be sharing our project with you guys.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much once more for joining, and really do appreciate that. Yes. Us, do you have anything else you want to say before we close this up?
Yeah, for everyone here in the space, enjoy the socials. And when you have questions, ask them there. They are very active. They answer our questions. And it was a very good AMA today.
Right.
Fantastic,
Right.
fantastic. Great.
Thank you again, Zen, for joining in. Really do appreciate that. To the community, we thank everybody for their questions. If we were unable to answer one, unfortunately, you can join the group chat. I'll post the link one more time so you can easily join their socials. Hold on, let me just do that right now. And it is done. Yeah, so again, thank you guys so much for joining in. Really do appreciate it. Let me just go ahead and end the VC now. Thank you, Zen. So we really do appreciate it. I feel like I've said thank you so many times. Stop
No
recording.
worries, Tom. No worries. Brilliant.
Yeah. Now,
Brilliant call. And yeah, for those that it's late, thanks for staying up, and for those that it's early, have a very productive day ahead.
yeah. Okay, so stop the recording already. I'll send you a piece of the recording so you can post it in your group chat for people who want to listen again, and we will pin there obviously. Yes, again. So bye bye to everyone. It was beautiful. Um, Ramadan Kareem to everybody also because I have friends who are doing that right now. So yeah, bye bye.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, Dom, chat to all your Muslim friends. Let them know about DeFi.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah. Brilliant, brilliant. Cool. Have a good evening, guys.